iPad Pro. I cannot, this is probably the angriest that I've been. This is probably the most frustrated with Apple I've ever been. I can barely talk. I'm an Apple fanboy, right? Whoo, come on in, like, subscribe. We're going to get started. Apple announced the M2 iPad Pro this morning, along with a couple of other devices. We'll briefly touch on those. If you're not new to my content, you know that I've been saying since pretty much the M1 iPad Pro came out that there should be no 2022 iPad Pro. Apple has always been a company that I felt like they were really trying to give power to the people, right? I cannot believe what I just saw Apple release and try to pass off as a new device. And the things that I'm saying won't sound like an Apple fanboy, but it could only come from a place of true honesty and a place where I really do want to see Apple continue to be the best technology company on the planet. The most innovative and super dope company. What I want you guys to pay attention to, welcome guys, what I want you to pay attention to is not all the people like me just talking, reacting to this device. What I want you to pay close attention to are the people who are not talking right now. The tech reviewers, the famous big time tech reviewers who aren't saying anything. Why? Because this type of event, what Apple just did, should be uniting the entire tech community, right? The entire tech community should be coming together. Apple and Android and iPhone, PC, you name it. They should be coming together to condemn the M2 iPad Pro. Honestly, they should be coming together to condemn the iPad Pro. Because it is literally the same device with a chip in it that offers no noticeable, and again, I'm assuming, no noticeable performance enhancements. Now, why would I assume something like that? Because the M1 does not lag in anything in iPad OS. iPad OS 16, which is coming up. I've been beta testing it. Even the betas run absolutely flawlessly, smoothly in terms of performance, multitasking, stage manager, you name it. iPad Pro M1 gets it all done. So there is nothing to improve upon. So I get it. You want to put the latest silicon in your new devices every year. Don't do that with the iPad Pro. You know why? Because the iPad Pro has always been a 2-year release cycle device. We got our first iPad Pro in 2015. 2 years later, we got the 2017 model. Yes, they did a back-to-back. 2017 and 2018, they released an iPad Pro. But guess what? That was the famous Beast iPad Pro, the design of which we still use now, and which the base model iPad Pro just upgraded to. Those flat rounded corners, Apple Pencil, all that kind of stuff came in 2018. The redesigns, all that came in 2018. So yes, it was back to back. And then no 2019 iPad Pro. 2020, we get another iPad Pro. They waited another 2 years. And yes, this device did not have a big improvement. It was just a chip. They just put a new chip basically in it. And the chip wasn't even that good, right? So there were barely that much of a noticeable, there wasn't that much of a noticeable improvement in performance, much like this one. So then, Chris, why are you getting upset? Why is this one so bad? Why is this potentially the worst iPad Apple's ever released? In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say this is the worst iPad Apple's ever released. Why? Because it's 2022. It's been one calendar year. It's been one calendar year. So we have the 2017, the 2018, and then 2 years to the 2020, which was a minor update. 2021, we got the M1 iPad Pro, beast of a machine, probably the greatest iPad they've ever released. And then the very next year, you're going to come out with something like this? They're just trying to sell the newest silicon in their newest device every new year. And I just don't understand who would buy this. Please, 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 if you have family members, friends, anybody who is about to get an iPad Pro and they don't know, advise them just to get the M1. Tell them, look, don't waste your money. And it is a waste of your money. Don't waste your money on M2 iPad Pro. There's no reason for it. For people who are tech savvy, you know there's no difference. But other people, they trust Apple. And this is what kind of frustrates me. People trust Apple. They get the latest and greatest because they know that, well, even if it's not a big difference, it's some difference. This is virtually no difference. There's virtually no difference. The reason I went live is because I wanted to read some of the comments, and here I am not reading my comments. Okay, let's take a look. I'm gonna respond to some comments, and then I'm gonna continue to react because this is ridiculous. I've never seen Apple drop something like this, this trash. Okay, I will not buy the iPad Pro, but I'm excited for DaVinci Resolve coming to iPad Pro. Now I saw that tweeted out. I'm going to react to that because, and it is a big part of this iPad Pro release, is that could be the only thing that saves this iPad, this M2 iPad Pro, would be software. Apple even said in their press release, pro apps. They said an amazing economy of pro apps on the iPad. And I'm like, wait, pro apps? Why are they saying that? So if this DaVinci stuff really shakes out, that is going to save iPad, and it will truly then be the Mac replacement, especially for somebody like me. I'm a producer, right? I make videos all the time. Not only my own, I got clients and stuff like that. If they do that, that's going to save this. Other than that, this is the worst Apple device that's ever come out in terms of iPad. Now, again, I want to tell you guys, for those of you who just joined, pay close attention to all the creators who are not talking right now. Because once again, every tech creator should be coming together in unity to condemn this device. Because there's just no benefit to it. And not just to crap on Apple. I'm an Apple fanboy. Why would I crap on Apple? It's to show Apple, hey, this is not it. This is not what people want. When MacBook Pro didn't have the ports that we wanted as pros, did anybody come out and say, stop buying iPad Pro, tell your friends not to buy, MacBook Pro, stop doing all that? No, because the MacBook Pro was still a great device. We just had to send that message that, hey, we need SD card readers. We need HDMI back. We need these things. And so it was only through the voice of the people, the voice of fans, the voice of, customers, that these companies actually see what needs to be changed. So again, if you have family, friends that are looking to buy an iPad, please advise them against getting this M2 iPad Pro. Let me read more comments. I think if they're going to be updating hardware so rapidly, they need WWDC to be on a 6-month or quarterly cycle. I think that, honestly, that would be even worse. I don't even think they're updating hardware. I mean, yes, the chip is technically hardware, but that you're just talking about benchmark improvements, because iPad OS bottlenecks iPad as a whole. There's not much. There's not really anything that you can do on iPad OS 16 that the M1 can't take care of, that the 2020 iPad Pro can't take care of, that maybe even the 2018 iPad Pro can't take care of. We even saw this blow up in Apple's face in a big way when they had to put support for Stage Manager on the older iPads, because the truth was you can run Stage Manager on older iPads. And even I was like, I gave Apple the benefit of the doubt, once again, showing that I'm a fanboy and I'm flawed sometimes. And I was like, look, Apple knows their devices better than anybody else. Maybe, not adding Stage Manager support was for some sort of reason. And then Apple made me look like an idiot and said, oh, no, actually it can. We just wanted you to buy new iPads. So Diet Man, I'm going to respond to your comment real quick, and then I'll respond to some older ones. The M2 iPad Pro is just that, and that's the biggest issue. The M2 chip is the only improvement in this new iPad that they've just released. And it was so bad, and they knew it was so bad, that they just put it out via a press release. Now, that's also very interesting, because if you knew that this device was going to be kind of a dud, wouldn't you want to cover it up, say, later this year, in just a month or two's time, in a December event or a late November event with the new M2 MacBook Pros? Now, I don't think the MacBook Pros are going to be that much of an update either. But at least there would be more to talk about. Right now, everyone is laser focused on the new iPad Pro, which is anything but a genuine update. So, and maybe Apple was thinking maybe the new MacBook Pros are so bad as well that to have all those bad devices released at once would be pretty bad. This is just breaking. iPad Pro, the new iPad Pro, and regular iPad now include a woven USB-C cable. Now, wasn't that supposed to be a Pro feature? Once again, and I had an issue with this earlier on, the iPad Air, you know, getting the M1 chip, the regular iPad, you know, now getting the updated design, again, with no pushing forward of the Pro model. It still has the M1 that's in the Air, and it now has the same design as the very base model iPad, which you can get for under $500 now, brand new, in the new colors, the ones they just announced today. So it's like, man, this is just a nothing device. And again, I want to point out, pay attention to all the top tech YouTubers that you follow, that you watch, right? And I'm not bashing them. They're great folks. I've had conversations with a lot of them. All I'm saying is they're speaking for the company. And so when they're getting a lot of bad press for something that they've done, watch them all just be quiet, because they know that they can't defend this device. So instead of coming out and supporting the whole tech community and saying kind of the sentiment I'm expressing, that look, these devices are not any good, they'll be quiet and they'll wait until the next Apple hit. And then they'll say, wow, look at this new device and all that it can do. So I just want people to be paying attention to that kind of thing. I'm falling behind on my comments. Here we go. I do think iPadOS needs more features. Yes, that's why I think the only big features, I think they're only releasing big features once a year for software is kind of outdated nowadays. Listen, if they literally handed me the same iPad Pro, they could hand me 2018's iPad Pro and put DaVinci Resolve, put some Pro software on there, I would be singing their praises today, hands down, because for a long time, the software has been the only thing holding back the iPad Pro. If they did that, it's already got mouse and keyboard support, it's already got external display support and all those kind of things. Now it really has external display support. I wouldn't be having this conversation. It's the fact that there are no software advantages to the M2 iPad Pro. This is ridiculous. And the fact that Apple could put this out at all, let alone in the press conference, I mean, if they had an entire event for this, people would be through the roof. And I think they even knew that. So they put it out as quietly as they could. But this is how quietly a multi-trillion-dollar company can release something. Everything they do is going to blow up. Everything they do is going to be trending the day of announcement. So I don't think, like, did they really think they'd be able to hide this device? Did they really think that people like Geek Show and, YouTubers like me, we're not going to speak out on, it's like, what are they doing with this device? Sorry, still falling behind here on the comments. I'm glad you speak truth. I appreciate it. Apple fan geek. And again, I'm pro Apple everything. I have all the Apple devices, Apple Watch, iPad Pro, MacBook Pro, iPad Pro, you name it, I've got it. AirPods, Apple Pens, like, it's not a question of that. Apple still makes the best tech devices in the world, in my opinion. But when they sell garbage like this, I'm going to call them out. That's what I do. iPad 10 laminated display, I'm assuming it is. They've moved on to a newer manufacturing process. Don't quote me on that. Again, this stuff is just announced. JG, stop alarming people with your headlines. This is an alarming situation, Jay. I'm not even frustrated. Listen, this is alarming that a company can put out a device like this that offers no benefit to their customers. And again, Apple being the #1 tech company on earth, people trust them and they'll go and line up and buy whatever. If they're up for an upgrade, they'll buy the latest and greatest. And they are literally selling last year's iPad Pro with very little performance, if any performance improvements. That is alarming. That is alarming that a company can get away with that. It's not good, and it doesn't push the industry forward. And again, I'm not saying, oh, just make a better iPad, right? Just innovate more. Of course not. Apple, look, they're making the best iPad that they can at the time, assuming they have some tech that they hold back. But I'm not saying put out a better iPad. I'm saying don't put out an iPad at all this year. iPad has always been on a 2-year release cycle. 2015 to 2017, we got a huge refresh in 2018. That's why they were close together. Then another 2 years for the next iPad. So it's always been 2 years. So if you're going to put out a nothing model, that's fine. But do it 2 years apart. Okay, so that way customers understand, hey, look, there's really not much that they're trying, that at least from a hardware standpoint, that they can do. The M1 iPad is a beast of a machine, probably the best tech release in the last 5 years, I would say. The display technology alone, nobody has that. Even now, right? We're still, usually tech companies like to catch up about a year later, they start doing this. Mini OLED on this thing, it had its blooming issues. Technology was out the wazoo. M1 chip crushing, and Apple Silicon was already crushing everybody in the tablet department. When they put out this M1, it was over. It was night for all these tablets. Like, it doesn't even come close. So Apple M1 iPad Pro was a beast, right? But this M2 is trash. And you're like, how can you say that the same device is trash? It's because now they're trying to charge top dollar again. This iPad is not coming out at $899, $799, the price of an M1 MacBook Air or an M1 iPad Pro. It's coming out at that same price that they charged for that first one. And no, they didn't move the camera. I'm sorry, I'm going to try and catch up on these comments. Anything on battery life? I would assume slight battery improvements. I mean, the M2 is supposed to be better than the M1 in battery, but I wouldn't count on it. And you know why? Because the M2 is supposed to have up to 24 gigabytes of RAM. That's what it supports. But we still get 16 gigs of RAM on the M2 iPad Pro. Now, we know, once again, just like with Stage Manager, that that's not a hardware limitation. It's Apple not allowing something. Now, you could argue that makes sense because, once again, there aren't any softwares that really take advantage of more RAM on the iPad. So it doesn't make sense. GC says they keep focusing on hardware instead of software. Yes, M1 was already overkill. Yes. Totally agree with your sentiment there. Software is the answer. And I think it's because, and I say this in a lot of my videos, I think it's because they're afraid of what the iPad really is. I will say this, and I'll say this once, and I won't say it once. The iPad is the killer of every device on the planet right now. Straight up. It already is. If Apple embraces the iPad's identity of a device that is a slab of glass that can do all the things your phone does, including cellular, that can transform, come on, talking modularity into a laptop with a simple click of a magnetic case, can be a tablet used on its own, can even be docked with Thunderbolt USB-C as a desktop into a 4K display with external monitor support. That sounds like the killer of every device that's out there. Obviously, it's a little bit bigger, but with folding technology display, who knows? You might be able to fold that bad boy down in a few years. You never know, right? So that's what the iPad is, and Apple just will not embrace it. Now, here's the thing. Apple, iPad, and MacBook sales do roughly the same numbers. So it's not like killing the MacBook Pro with the iPad would destroy something that makes 2 to 3 times the amount that the iPad does. No, they basically make the same amount. That's the amount of sales that you're talking, right? Is they sell tens of millions of iPads, they sell tens of millions of MacBook Pros, right? So on Mac, blah, 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 let's take a look. You can get M1 Pro. That is the win today. There's always a silver lining. The win is you can get M1 iPad Pro even cheaper now, which is awesome. And I guess, you know, Apple wants to continue to push down prices of older devices, but it's like, give us something to update. But for someone that doesn't currently have an iPad, it's the new iPad for me. For somebody who doesn't currently have an iPad Pro and wants to get into Lightroom and Photoshop, it's the new iPad Pro for me. Listen, Jay, here's the thing. No, it's not. And that's why I'm so upset. I'm not that upset, but listen, that's why it's so frustrating. Is because if you were trying to get into Lightroom and Photoshop and all these new video editing softwares for iPad, again, you will see no performance improvements. None with the M2 over the M1. Now, this is partially because the software is not yet taking advantage of it. But again, 40% more graphics power, right? No DaVinci, no Final Cut. Heck, Adobe was the most, they were really pushing, saying, okay, we're going to make our entire Adobe suite for the iPad Pro. But they still haven't. They still have Adobe Premiere Rush and like these light watered down versions of editors when the iPad clearly has the horsepower to do it. So the problem is, I don't think that you're going to see any performance improvements with this M2. So you're better off saving a few $100s, get some accessories. Get the M1 iPad Pro, get that $400 Apple keyboard, right? Get you an Apple Pencil, get you some AirPods. Like, there's just no need to get the M2. There's just no need. And this is what's scary about the M2 MacBook Pros that are coming out. Now, I think, once again, the M1 Pro and M1 Max MacBook Pros are some of the best devices Apple's released, like, ever. Certainly in the last 10 years. So really good devices in terms of satisfying what the needs are of the industry right now. So they definitely did a good job with those. But M2, I think, is going to be the same story, just like we saw with the Air, the new M2 MacBook Air. Not much in the way of performance improvements. So all in all, a very sad day. Now, let's talk about the other things that Apple released. They released a new Apple TV, which now supports HDR10 plus. Okay, great. You can get the other Apple TV for cheaper now. And of course, the base model iPad now gets the refreshed and updated design of the 2018 iPad Pro, which has basically stayed the same since then. So, in a day of mediocre releases, this is like the crowning achievement, and it's a sad thing. Let's see. Crazy messed up times. Yes. Let me get to some more comments here. I thought it was hilarious that they advertised using the iPad Pro to shoot a video. That's so true. I totally forgot about that. Sorry if you got headphones on. I'm like yelling and ranting. Oh my goodness. ProRes. They actually put that in the headline. Two things, right? Two things they put in the headline. M2 iPad Pro supercharged. That's the first problem. Supercharged by the M2 chip. Number two, Apple Pencil now has hover functionality. The fact that that even makes the headline, you knew you were in for something bad. And number three, like you said, now record ProRes video. Who's doing that? Like, who's doing that? No one is the answer, right? No one's shooting ProRes video on an iPad Pro. Even if it had an amazing iPad's big enough where you could put a legit 1-inch sensor. You could probably go micro four thirds if they made it a little beefier, right? You could have a legit camera inside of an iPad. It's too big. It's too big. The 12.9 and even the rumored 14-inch iPad Pro, iPad Max perhaps, iPad Ultra maybe. Maybe that's why. Oh man, now I'm getting into conspiracy. Maybe that's why this iPad is so trash. Because there's an iPad Ultra 14-inch coming. I've made a video on the latest rumors for the 14-inch iPad Ultra, Max, whatever you want to call it. Maybe that thing's going to be so much of a beast that they're like, look, we're not going to take the innovations from that and leak it, basically preview it in the M2 iPad Pro, moving the camera over. Maybe things like that. DaVinci Resolve and Final Cut Pro in the iPad. I mean, it's about time. I made a video that went viral. It's the reason this channel kind of gained popularity and stuff like that. 210,000 views in a couple weeks, where I talk about the future of the iPad, right? And the future of the M1 in particular. Now, I was ridiculed, said that I was wrong for that video. And even though I was wrong on my timeline, I was still right in the sentiment. That is the future of the iPad. You guys can go back and watch that if you want. But you'll see everything that I said is pretty much coming true. It's coming true. That is the inevitable future of the iPad. It will kill the MacBook. It will kill the desktop for most people. For most people, okay? iPad just needs to be embraced for what it is by the people over in Cupertino. And once they do that, it's going to sell through the roof. They think they're doing... And here's the thing. Mac sales have been steadily appreciating. They've been going up, right? So maybe Apple's like, I don't know. Maybe the Mac will be bigger in the future, especially as, I mean, we live in a TikTok, YouTube age. A lot of young people want to be creators right now. And so what's happening is there's an increased demand for devices that help people create. And Apple has always been more geared toward creatives versus number crunchers, right? That's PC all day, gamers and stuff like that. So as there are more creators, you're starting to see Apple MacBook sales tick up. And that's the reason for that, honestly, whether they recognize it or not. And so what's going to happen is that could potentially be holding them back from recognizing the iPad for what it is. But the iPad still belongs to them, and the iPad can still help people create. So if they just unleash it, Mac OS, touch optimized on iPad Pro, sales go through the roof. I guarantee it. Anyway, guys, I'm not going to keep you forever. This has been an in-depth initial reaction to the new M2 iPad Pro that was just announced. If you're new to the channel, you know what to do. It's YouTube. I create all things. I don't create. Whoa, that was weird. I don't create all things. I create videos on all things Apple Talk, iPad Pro, and Pro Video. And what? Tyron? Why would you say something like that? He just said the new iPad Pro looks great. I'm not going to say it doesn't look great because it looks just like the M1 iPad Pro, which also looked great. What? I'm sorry. I was just flabbergasted by that. I was all smooth into my outro and stuff and to let you guys go enjoy your lunch or whatever. And he just said the M2 iPad looks great. I don't even know what to say. I'm usually not one loss for words. I'm not saying it doesn't look great. But if you could get the same thing for like $400 less, would you? I don't get it. Anyway, I'm sorry. That kind of broke my mind for a minute. Why is your video quality so horrible? I'm going to tell you why. I'm actually, well, as you can see, I'm outdoors. I don't have Wi-Fi right now. This is being shot on the iPhone 14 Pro Max, however. So, you know, it's got 5G and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not in my office right now, clearly. And so that's the reason for the quality. I apologize for that. Yes. Wax Vision? Yes, the new iPad Pro looks great as a clone. I totally agree. Anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for your time. Enjoy your lunch. I'm going to probably dig into this a little bit deeper. I may pick up one of these just to compare it to my M1, which I'm not getting rid of. M1 still all day, unfortunately. You know, we'll see what happens. Thanks, guys. Leave a like, subscribe if you like the video. Stay tuned for more. I will see you in the next one as we cover all things Apple Talk, Pro Audio, and Pro Video. Stay tuned.